Let's go ahead and show you some of those team portal rankings, how things have shaked out at the end of this. LSU with a big-time ad over the weekend. The number 4 defensive lineman, Bernard Gooden, that shot them back up to the number 1 portal class. We've also got Texas Tech making a ton of moves. Speaking of a ton of moves, we're just kind of used to this from Ole Miss. 28 total commits, Miami and Oregon rounding out that top 5. Now, if we look at the portal cycle as a whole, some of the top players in this cycle, only one of them came from the spring window, and that is the number 1 player, Nico Iamaleava. 3 total quarterbacks in the top 10. We've got Carson Beck to Miami, John Mateer going to Oklahoma, also some great edge and wide receiver prospects. So that's just 10 of the players. In total, we saw a ton of transfers over this portal cycle. Nearly 5,000 total entries in the 2024-2025 cycle. I'm not going to break down every single one of these numbers, but as you can see, there is a steady trend, and that trend just continues to go up. So you see these numbers, nearly 5,000 entering. What do you think of that, Smoke?
A lot of numbers.
It's a lot of players.
But when you look at it, Coop, we're talking about who are the real difference makers in this. Most of them are just 1 or 2 guys that can come into your building and really give you 1 or 2 wins, what we really care about. But everybody else is just a good ad. So now I'm thinking in my mind, how important is it for personnel departments to get it right, to make sure you get that right fit, to make sure that 1 or 2 spots that you need, you fill it the proper way with the right personnel in your building.
Emily, I think you had a stat earlier before we came on the show that you were telling me about less than 50%, so just around that 50% number of the portal entries this spring had less than 100 snaps in the previous season or in their career, right? So you think about that, and I think that's kind of the point. What are teams shopping for in this spring portal? And you think about us, the way that we've graded the players, obviously there's a lot that goes into it, projected performance, what they're going to do collegiately, projected performance, what could they do at the NFL level. But let's think about how these guys could potentially impact their team. Out of all the spring portal entries, we only have 118 players that have an 87 rating or higher, which is what we would consider an above average to good starter, okay? We only have 20 draftable grades as well. And out of those 20 draftable grades, we only have 2 players that would be drafted on day 1 or day 2 with Nico Iamaleava and David Bailey. Both very kind of unique, circumstantial situations that they're going through. So right now, I think it's all about teams trying to find competitive depth and really try to plug 1 or 2 holes. If you're one of those teams out there that's trying to find 4 or 5 starters right now, that time to do that would have been in December. And this is a really hard time because now you're talking about players coming in, and it's going to be summer. You only have fall ball to really get acclimated with your new school. So everybody uses the portal differently. The spring portal, as close as they are, is very different to the winter portal as well.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about that there are only 2 players, like you said, that entered the spring portal window that you give a 1 or 2 or first or second round draft grade to. And it's not like there are some 3rd and 4th rounds. The next best is all 5 and beyond.
And I'm not even sure that we would see that again. I mean, you think about how unique Nico's situation is, and then you think about David Bailey and Troy Taylor gets fired kind of out of the blue, and the timing of that is kind of awkward. So it paints a pretty vivid picture about what's available in this market.
And it seems like you're telling me, Coop, you better get your guys early, because if you wait a little bit longer, you're just going to get guys in. They're just in there just to fit your depth to go into that long season.
And it's competitive. It's more expensive too. You know, it's really it's inflationary in the spring market because you have more competitors as well.
Yeah, there's a little bit more desperation. There's also the factor of the house settlement, which we'll get into on this show, all the changes with that some teams are trying to come down to the wire and spend. And just with there being a smaller pool and not being able to find those elite level players, like you said, yeah, it drives the price up. So from a general manager standpoint, what are you trying to accomplish during the spring window if you're not adding those elite level starters?
Well, the beautiful thing of getting through spring, you know exactly what your roster looks like. You went through December, you went through every single practice, from injuries, from guys that you believe that should have taken a step, they didn't. So now you can come back and say, okay, we can truly evaluate what we need just to get through this season. We already have our starters on offense and defense. But what does that backup tackle look like? What does that swing tackle look like? We need to go out and add the next best of. What does that 5th cornerback look like? We need to go out and get that, because the early enrollee that we're projecting to be ready to play just haven't picked up the defense. So you're just trying to figure out what are the right pieces that we need to finish out this season instead of trying to add in a starter because the starter's not there right now. And if you're looking for that, Coop, you're in a bad situation.
Right, and there's some guys out there like Bernard Gooden from South Florida for LSU. They needed depth on the defensive line, plus they get an above-average starter. You think about Bo Atkinson, Ohio State, probably not thinking that guy's going to be on the market, had 7.5 sacks last season. So teams are also in the position, the luxury position, really the contenders, to kind of say, okay, we have one spot that we'd love to have. And we talked about LSU a lot with that tackle spot. If the guy's not there, they also need to be cautious about spooking some of their younger guys away that haven't played yet, right? So there's a little bit of that game of cat and mouse kind of going on, evaluating, all right, where can we get better? But we also want to retain guys within this 10-day portal window as well.
But you also have to understand who you are and who you can afford to be. Like every team can't go out there and purchase a Bo Atkinson. Like you can't do that because financially and the resources you don't have. So, yeah, you can go out there and go get that guy, but everybody in your locker room is looking like, okay, you spent X amount on this guy. What about us? Because we might just be jumping in that portal tomorrow.